Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Welcome back to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hi everyone, how was your week, Belle?
I had a week of ups and downs. I'll tell you what the highlight is, though, because the low light is me being locked in a dark room writing. The upside was I did manage to escape to Bright, which is
How's that a low light? I love being locked in a dark room writing. Any time on my own writing is like gold.
Well, very late nights, I have to say, which you don't do. Lots of late nights. But the highlight was I jumped in the car and I fanged up to the Alps, the Victorian high country, to Bright, gorgeous Bright, love Bright, for a quick and dirty weekend of wellness. And the hero experience of this little weekend away was staying at a converted barn in Freeburg, which is about 10 minutes outside Bright. And the Ovens River, that gorgeous river running down from the mountains, is on the property. And what this company called Hot House has done is it's brought a mobile sauna there and parked it beside the river. So, and it's a sauna and it has massive big windows on it. So you're sitting in the sauna, roasting yourself at 95 degrees, and you're looking outside into this gorgeous river. So when you're too hot, you jump into the hot tub and cool down. The cold plunge. Or you can jump into the river, which I did about 5 times. And just wallowing around in this gorgeous alpine river, which is basically snow melt at the moment. So that really helped to just sort of reset my mind. And then there was also gorgeous vinyasa yoga at a beautiful place called Botanic Alps, which actually they make their own cosmetics there as well. And I had a facial and a massage. There was vegan lunch at Wild Time, and did a little bit of horse riding and
horse riding. Where did your horse ride?
Riding. Well, actually, I stuck Yasmin on it because the ponies were quite small and gorgeous. And
it was me having all these images in my mind's eye of you on this giant horse galloping across the countryside.
Yes, with my hair flowing in the breeze and long scarves behind me. I have ridden up there quite a few times at Spring Spur, which is a really great place that goes into the national parks. It's really gorgeous. And dinner at Reed & Co., which is it is healthy. It's a distillery. They do a lot of. They have open fire in the kitchens, which you sit up at the bar is the best place to sit and watch the food being grilled and stuff like that. The health aspect is that they do make soju, which is the Japanese spirit. You might know soju from Korea. So soju, they make it from a rye, and it's basically a clean distilled spirit, and it's as healthy as you're going to get. So that was my weekend of wellness up in the Victorian high country.
Lovely.
And I'm going to put the links to that in the show notes, because you really should go up. And you don't have to be staying at the barn at Freeburg to do the sauna. You can just book an hour, go up there. And I just saw groups of girls, like all the yoga teachers were booked in after me, and they just hung out by the river. There was a fire going, you sit in the sauna for a bit, and it was a great reconnection to, especially as, midwinter, everyone was fanging past to go up to the snow. If you don't want to ski, this is a really great way to have a mountain experience in winter.
Yeah, well, it sounds gorgeous. And we were also both fortunate to attend an event with Minor Hotel Group, which was such a great night. Listeners might know some of their highest profile hotel brands, including Anatara, Avani, and the family-orientated Oaks. And what you might not know is that when the owner, William Hynek, started it, this is such a cool story that they were telling us on the night, he was only 17. So he apparently went along and tried to get a loan because his father wouldn't loan him the money, as most, fathers of 17-year-olds won't. So he decided he went and got a loan. And when he put on his application that he wanted to start a business, they realised he wasn't actually an adult because he was only 17, not 18. And they wrote down minor on the application. And so there, my friends, was how the hotel brand was born, and he's now worth billions of dollars.
Yeah, I love that story. And so the hotel group now has grown to 550 hotels. And they seem to be opening a hotel in Europe every few months, with Anantara and Avani properties popping up in Milan, Venice, Rome, Nice, and Amsterdam, which is amazing. And they also have a 13-cabin luxury boat on the Mekong, and a new luxury train in Vietnam. So you heard it here first. Jump on over to minerhotels.com to check out some of their incredible new projects coming up, including one in Ubud, which I reckon I'm going to be going to, and another back home here in Australia, in Queensland. Hey, Kirsty, do you know what time it is?
What time, Belle? Tell me.
It is giveaway time. So, so we have been promoting a giveaway for an absolutely gorgeous hair tie bangle, which is made by Gypsy Loop. Now, the connection with it, because you might be saying, where does this go with travel? It's a bangle, but it is an incredible bangle because, have you checked it out? You can actually, what it does is it holds your hair tie in the bangle.
And they're actually really lovely. It looks like a proper piece of jewellery. They're gold and silver, aren't they?
You can choose either a gold or a silver one. And so the other travel connection on it is that the inventor is a woman called Tracy Morris, who is also one of the Blonde Nomads, which has a really great family-oriented travel blog with her husband and her 2 kids. So that's Tracy, and you can find her at theblondenomads.com.au. But the thing is, she was taking all of these photos of herself in gorgeous locations, and in every one she's got a hair tie stuck on her wrist and sort of, scrunching up her hand and stuff like that. And she was like, I've got to stop doing this, or having, like a tacky scrunchie or something stuck there. And so she invented the bangles, and voila, suddenly glamorous holiday snaps ensue. So she gave us one to give away, and we did a call out for it and asking people to email us. And we got an email from Maria Tara, who is from Northern New South Wales. So, Maria, congratulations on your win.
Maria!
I'll send you a little email and ask you what colour you would like, whether you'd like the gold one or the silver one. She actually wrote to us saying that she loves the podcast. So, Maria, we love you back. And she said she wears her hair up all the time, and she just totally loves it. And she said, thank you for filling in the gap from Flight of Fancy, which was the Traveller the podcast that was coming out of Traveller. She said she was so disappointed when Flights of Fancy finished, and I used to go on it sometimes, and loved listening to it, and now she listens to us, and I think that's really gorgeous. So, Maria, sending out all the big love to Northern New South Wales, and we'll also send you the Gypsy Loop hair tie bangle.
While we're on jewellery and travel, there's a new TikTok trend under the hashtag engagement ring dupe, encouraging couples to purchase dupe engagement rings for travel. And it raises the overarching question about, should you wear fake jewellery when you travel? Have you ever travelled anywhere, Belle, and put fake jewellery on? I know you have, because you've told me before.
But pretend that I haven't told you this. Actually, I don't think I've told you this. I have shocking luck I have very, very bad luck with jewellery. It just seems to fall off me. It's ridiculous. So I'm all about the faux jewellery. But it's not just about losing the jewellery. I've always also worn fake engagement rings and wedding rings for years when I was single and travelling solo, especially in really traditional parts of the world, such as regional India or parts of the Middle East, because it just helps deflect questions about why a solo woman is travelling. Or, sometimes I've been travelling with a photographer and you're not married and you don't want to share a room. And it's like, no, it just gets you out of a lot of those dilemmas. At one point, I even borrowed my brother's photos of his little kids just to whip them out if someone was pressing me a bit too closely for personal information, which in some parts of the world, people think it's their right to ask. They want to put you into society. So jewellery does that for you.
That is so funny, but also very smart. I haven't done this, but we'll tell you in that story. Nutritionist Cheryl Takayama from way back in episode 17. And make sure you just go and scoot on back and have a listen, because
Cheryl.
Yeah, she's hilarious, and she's informative, and she has some great things to say about what to do about staying healthy while you travel. So,
wasn't her bizarre story about being shot at as she was running out of a bar as an underage?
Yes, it was.
in Colombia or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And she's laughing about it. Oh my gosh, her parents must have died when they heard that.
Well, her mother didn't know until and then she told her years and years later, and she was horrified. But Shaz is great to listen to, and that's a really good interview. So head on back to episode 17 and have a listen. But she's actually married to a Brazilian, and they go back there all the time. And she was telling me that rather than dupes, she actually just takes every single piece of jewellery off when they go down to the beach or something, even like stud earrings to avoid being targeted. So unfortunately, in some parts of the world, it's just a sad reality that, it's best to not even wear jewellery because
Can I jump in there about the whole Brazilian thing, though? There's a really great story that Craig Tansley wrote years ago, and he went to Copacabana Beach and literally was stripped of everything on the beach, including they took the thongs from his feet.
Oh yes, I remember that. And yes, yeah. Well, that's what Cheryl always says too. That it's not even worth taking. Yeah, she just doesn't wear anything. So yes, no, that is an interesting story, and it is unfortunate. But back to dupes. And jewellery experts are actually now weighing in on whether this trend is a smart precaution or really unnecessary and just sort of an extra expense, right? Because you've got to buy the dupe jewellery. So jeweller Blake Assad, who is founder of Goodstone, says the rise of dupe rings does reflect a genuine concern many have about losing their jewellery while travelling, and also what we just talked about pickpockets and being stripped of all your goods.
Yeah, well, it comes on, there's some statistics showing that 25% of men and 14% of women have lost their wedding or engagement rings at some point. I think that's so much higher than that. Well, especially for women. Did you hear about that the Italian Olympian who dropped his wedding ring in the Seine, and in true romantic Italian style, he posted on Instagram to his wife. I would not have told my husband, but he posted it on Instagram.
You would have bought a dupe.
Yeah, and to say, he posted saying, if it had to happen, if I had to lose this ring, I couldn't imagine a better place. It will remain forever in the riverbed of the city.
Oh.
His wife is still cranky at him, I'm sure of it.
So sweet. Well, Blake actually says that 1 in 5 people who lost their rings said it slipped off their finger while swimming, hiking, sightseeing, or doing other adventurous activities. I mean, I get maybe if you've lost weight, the ring might be a bit loose, but I can't say any weight loss I've had translated to my finger, but
I find the opposite, because your hands often swell up while you're traveling, while you're flying as well. Like that. That's your hands and your feet swell when you're flying, and then if you're going into hot climates and stuff like that, there's no way those rings are going to come off. But Blake also had some advice for those who want to wear jewellery, and he said if you're uncomfortable with getting a dupe, and I don't know why you'd pay a lot of money for that anyway.
No.
There are ways to protect your rings. Insure them, of course. Take them off and store them properly in a safe place. Just remember where you put them or the code to the safe. Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah, but anyway, he suggests popping them in a safe place. And that's, I suppose, what hotel safes are for. Or in your shoes. In your shoes that you're going to put on the next morning. That is, if I've had to put jewellery, that is where I put them.
Oh my God, I have a jewellery story I have to tell you. So I have this necklace that's really sentimental. And the chain actually belonged to my sister who died in a car accident many, many years ago. And I thought, when I was working at Luxury Escapes Travel Company, I lost it, and I thought that it was stolen out of the gym locker cabinet. And I was in New Zealand, where my sister and I grew up, and I picked up a shoe to put a shoe on. This is like, God, I don't know, 5 years later or something. No, not that long, but it was a matter of years later. I picked up a shoe. All of a sudden, as I was picking up my shoe, this necklace just fell on the ground in front of me in New Zealand. No. Yes. And I was staying at an Oaks property, actually, stunning property right on the waterfront in Queenstown. And
that is not a paid plug, but anyway.
No.
Go on.
And we went and were having drinks and canapes in front of the fire, and I was telling them, the other people, and everyone was getting goosebumps about the story about how this necklace just appeared in New Zealand, of all the places, right? When I thought I had lost this very important piece of jewellery. So I must have put it in the shoe, and it must have fallen out of the shoe. But the weirdest thing is I'd been wearing those shoes for years. So I know, right? And I'd never seen this necklace, and then all of a sudden it just appeared. Anyway, there you go.
Oh
There's
my
gosh, I know, isn't it
amazing?
Yeah.
So that stays what? Put it in your shoes. Like I don't know, if my husband's listening to this, he'll be gasping with laughter, because I really have terrible bad luck with jewelry. So I'm all about the fake or the accessory, which is the nice way to put it.
Well,
Yeah.
that was my jewellery loss story. So I don't normally, earrings I'm a bit bad with, but the rest of jewellery I'm pretty good. Anyway, and he says also take, obviously not that necklace. He says take close-up detailed pictures of your rings. That way, if the worst does happen, you can use the pictures to commission a replacement piece or as a guide when buying a replacement with a similar design. And I guess that's if you actually liked it in the first place. You bought it yourself.
Yeah, that is true. But also that helps with your insurance claims as well. So, look, yeah, to be fully transparent, I leave things in hotels all around the world. So,
oh, that surprises me, Belle. She says,
I'm a busy woman. I left my swimmers in Oman last time. Oh, I'm devastated. So yeah, look, there's no way I'm taking my rings off, even if I could, and throwing them in a safe. Just remember that hotels bear no responsibility for things left in hotel safes as well. So just saying. You're listening to The World Awaits. Subscribe through our website at theworldawaits.au. This week, my guest is Fiona Caulfield, who swapped a high-profile career as a futurist and a branding consultant in New York for Bangalore in southern India. Here, she created the Love Travel Guides brand, set up a publishing house, and has become the go-to for anyone seeking an insight into India's rich craft and design traditions. So take a listen. Fiona, welcome to The World Awaits. It's wonderful to have you on here as our expert on India. You're widely regarded as a specialist on India, but first, tell us a little about your job and what you do, what your connection is to India.
Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. It's always great to talk with you. I work as an India specialist in terms of travel design and also travel writing. So for the last 20 years, all I've done is help people fall in love with India. So it started off with writing a series of books. So I did 6 different titles, various editions. They were the Love Travel Guides. And because of those books, and they were written in quite an intimate way, those books led me to various magazine editors and people around the world who got me to do writing for them and help on TV programs. And that, in combination with the books, just led me to talk with more people who wanted help on their travels in India and how to make sure they didn't have bad experiences, they didn't waste time. And, quite often people with special interests would come to me. So whether they were chefs or jewellery designers or whoever it was going to be, they gravitated to kind of my style, I guess, in the lens I look at India. So that's what I do. I spend all day, every day thinking about and talking about India, which is a delight. I feel lucky to do it.
Absolutely. Well, how did you become this India specialist? Where were you before that? Take me through your story and how you ended up living in India and for it to take over your life.
Well, it's a long story, so I'm going to give you the edited version.
Sounds great.
As you can hear in my voice, I'm an Aussie. And I think, we have travel in our DNA. So I'd certainly done my fair share of travel and adventures. And I had a career in advertising. So I'd worked in England for 5 years. And then I returned to Sydney and was running an agency. And then I was invited to go to New York to work in advertising. So I did that. And I loved New York, but I didn't love advertising at that point. And I ended up taking a job with quite a famous woman called Faith Popcorn, who ran a future consulting business. So she'd been very famous for a book called The Popcorn Report. She was considered the Nostradamus of marketing.
Uh-huh.
And she would do innovation and future projects. So we did the future of travel for British Airways, the future of women for Nike, the future of pain for Tylenol. So it was a crazy intense job and quite exhilarating. And it was a big global life, those projects were global. And I was also, at the same time, in a parallel world, getting interested in mountain climbing and trekking. And on one of those adventures, So I had gone into Everest Base Camp to have a look at the ice fall, see whether crossing that was in my future.
Amazing.
And on that trip, I read a book by Jeff Greenwald, who now runs The Ethical Traveller. And Jeff had written a book called Mr. Raj's Neighbourhood about his attempt to write a novel in Kathmandu. And what happens when you go travelling and you go walking in particular is amazing things pop into your head and things slow down and you get the opportunity of imagining a different life. And I imagined a life of living in Kathmandu and writing a novel. And then I sort of had a word with myself and thought, well, Kathmandu is probably a bit small. And as a futurist, which is how I'd been making my living as a consultant, the future at that point was either India or China. So I thought, well, that's it. I'll move to India and all right. And that's what I did. So on the journey home from Everest, I wrote a nominal business plan for my Love Travel brand. And then I wrote a resignation letter on the second flight and I resigned when I got off the plane.
That is
And about 5 months later, I was living in, moved to India, didn't know a soul, and started my new life. So that was November 2004.
And where did you move to?
Well, I started in Bombay and I was very lucky. I was staying at the Yacht Club, and which is a fabulous Victorian Gothic structure. And they invited me to take an apartment. And I said, oh, no, couldn't do that. Didn't have an income, didn't know how I could pay the rent. And if you missed your rent at the Bombay Yacht Club, your name would be rubbish. And I was in travel, right? So I was moving around the country and I realized I'm a complete idiot. How am I going to ride and move? And, it was just seriously insane. And anyway, I met some people and they took pity on me and they gave me the keys of a cottage up in the Nilgiris, up in the hills in South India. And it was so nice of them to give me a place to be and not be homeless. But it didn't have any phone connection and it didn't have any Wi-Fi. So once a day, I would walk 45 minutes into town to check my email. In fact, I long for that life again. I long for that.
It sounds like the writer's dream, really. Just that absolute disconnection. Incredible. So from then, I mean, from that, you've travelled from the bottom to the top of India. The both sides of it, there is almost no corner uncovered.
There always is. The pandemic really changed my life, and so now I'm back living in Australia, and that's a choice which I'm very lucky to have had, and I'm grateful to be here to be supportive to my family. But it means that I'm based here and I'm returning to India. So my promise to myself is every time I go back, I go somewhere new. And, so many people think that there's no corner untouched. And actually the great beauty of India is, the more you get to know it, the more you realize you don't know and the more places there are to discover. So it's been wonderful to me. On 2 trips ago, I discovered the city of Lucknow and, the incredible embroidery still done in that city. And then on my most recent trip back, I went up to the Himalayas and I traveled to where the Dalai Lama lives, to McLeod, and then I did a little odyssey around the mountains for a week and ate at the most extraordinary restaurant. One of the great Indian chefs who'd worked at Noma, he's opened a 16-seat restaurant in a tiny village in the mountains, only serving food from the Himalayas. So that is fantastic. And then on my next trip coming up, I'm taking myself off to go tiger spotting in Madhya Pradesh. So right in the middle of India, to a couple of parks that I've been to before, and I'm quite excited by it.
So
there's always somewhere new.
There's always something new, and that makes my that stock standard question that I'm going to ask you even more difficult. Australians in particular seem to be drawn much, to Rajasthan and places like that, to cities of Jaipur, which you called in our conversation beforehand the Venice of India, which I completely love. It's but it is such a draw card for us. Where's your favourite place, or a place that you find yourself always returning to? And as a sub-question on that, does Jaipur deserve that reputation?
Oh, so many things to talk about that. Yes, look, I must clarify. There's lots of Venices of the East. So normally that's Udaipur gets that tag, or Aleppi down in Kerala, because of their water and lake and waterways, and that great book, The Covenant of Water, said in Kerala, kind of talks to that. What I meant with Jaipur being the Venice of the East, so the capital, the desert capital of Rajasthan, is that, like Tuscany is for Italy, so cities like Florence and Venice are such a draw card for travellers. Jaipur and Rajasthan is that for India. So 90% of first-time visitors to India go to Rajasthan. And, Rajasthan was the state, it's the largest state in India, so it's bigger than California, for example. They really pioneered tourism. And it was the first state to have palace hotels. And because of that, it's always been kind of this exotic place to go. And I think Rajasthan is the India of the imagination. Fortresses and palaces and the grand desert, the bustling bazaars and incredible intense colour. So the women wear extraordinary skirts and tops, these lengas, and the men are in fabulous colourful turbans, and you see elephants and camels everywhere. So I think that Jaipur, the pink city and the capital of Rajasthan, absolutely deserves the love that it gets. And there are a lot of places to fall in love with in India. So I never choose a favorite. I answer that by saying, it's like choosing a favorite child. You can't. Or you can't say it out loud. You know the truth with that. And, the truth is wherever you are at the moment should be your favorite place. So, if I'm in Jaipur, Jaipur is my favorite place that day. If I'm in Calcutta the following week, Calcutta is my favorite. If I'm in Assam looking at rhinos, that's my favorite place. If I'm in Pondicherry visiting a convent, seeing beautiful embroidery, that's my favorite place. So I really try and be present in the moment when I'm in India.
That's well, there you go. You circumnavigated that question very well. Yet for some people, India is seen as an intimidating destination, a place that you've visited when you have some experience traveling, and it's not considered safe, especially for solo women travelers. Is that a valid reputation?
I think there are a lot of barriers that people have about traveling to India. So whether that is I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get ripped off, or it's unsafe for women, I think all of those barriers are easy to overcome and are true. I think in the past, people did used to get sick. It used to be that 90% of people got sick. This is like 30 years ago when I first started going to India.
Delhi Belly has a name, it's a shorthand in travel as well.
But now hardly anyone gets ill in India. So food hygiene standards have improved no end. There's refrigeration everywhere. There's electricity. India is now very safe. I have clients traveling to India all the time. So I really speak of this from first-hand experience. It's very uncommon now for people to get sick. I think this notion of it being unsafe for female travelers, India has an enormous population, 1.4 billion, and there are certainly some challenges around the safety of Indian women, particularly if you are poor and you come from a rural area. That's all true. There's a lot of work being done to improve the safety of those people. For travellers, completely safe. It is extremely rare to hear of anything bad happening for a woman or a man travelling in India, far less so than many other countries. So I have a lot of female clients, a lot of women. For me, I don't know whether it's more women are drawn to talking to me about it or not, but it seems to have a more feminine energy and, in Mother India, and it becomes a destination that women in particular are interested in. Whether that's also the textiles and the aesthetics and the beauty of India also attracts them, I'm not sure. But the secret for safe travel in India is don't do anything you wouldn't do at home. So we don't want you out at 2 a.m. drunk at a nightclub, hitching a lift home with somebody you don't know. You wouldn't do that in Melbourne. We don't want you to do it in Delhi. So there's got to be kind of a common sense attitude. But the other thing also is to be looked after and to make sure that your landing into India is soft. So I don't want you just turning up at the airport, having no idea what you're going to do and winging it. That first couple of days of getting your India legs underneath you, it's important to be looked after a bit and to know where you're going to be staying and to have an idea about what you're doing. I'm very aware that those first few days are important.
And the rewards then, the rewards for exploring India. I mean, what is the lure for you? What you have a particular specialization in India's incredibly diverse and incredibly beautiful craft and design scene. I mean, the colors that you see in India are not replicated anywhere. And that, I think, is the thing that draws so many of us as well. There's no Scandi muted tones or anything like that. India turns the volume up 100%, doesn't it?
Oh, that's exactly, you've stolen my line. When I leave India, when I get on the plane and I've left it, it feels like someone's turned the switch to black and white. I've lost color. And it also feels like someone's turned the volume down. I can remember leaving India and flying into London and catching up with some friends, and it literally felt like there was a blanket of snow everywhere. It felt like there was just no sound and no action going on. But I think that that notion of the visual intensity and also the sound intensity, really what it talks to is about India gives you an intensity of light, and it's the intensity that I love. And so India asks you big questions. And it asks you to go on a journey inside yourself. And if you're ready for that, that's why India is so intoxicating. Because when you look at, I remember I was in Bombay, I see a fellow in a suit with a briefcase, and Bombay is a commercial capital. It's where the stock exchange is based. It's a very significant finance center with the world's first $1 billion home. So there's this very sort of well put together businessman going to his office that morning, and he stops to pat a cow and take a blessing from a cow. And I love that. I love what that asks me. It asks me, what do I believe? And what do I think? All kinds of questions come up. And I think that's true. When my mother came to India, she looked out of the window of the car. We were driving. I picked her up at the airport, and we were driving to some area. And my mother chose to see beauty. So she saw jasmine gardens and women's beautiful art. Yeah, and she saw it's nothing. And it's a choice, it's a choice that mum made to see the beauty and not to see the poverty and the challenges. And I think that's what India gives you all the time. It gives you this great opportunity of asking yourself how you live and what's important and what makes you happy. So that's why India is exciting. That intensity reflects on yourself.
I think you're singing to my soul. I need to get back to India straight away. Which brings me to my next one. I must go. I did get asked straight after COVID, but we had just come out of lockdown here in Australia, and I needed to see family first before I started tearing back off to the Himalayas. So my question is, what is the best time to visit India? Are there any blackout periods? Things have the world travel scene has changed. It's been thrown on its head post-COVID. Are there any blackout periods? The way that India is traveling as well has changed enormously. So when should I go?
India, because it's so diverse, because you've got literally a tropical south up to the Himalayas in the north and everything in between, whatever time of year you want to go, we can find a destination. So that's kind of the broadest answer. The more specific answer is most people like to travel during the winter season in India, and the peak time to go is November to February. And that's because those winter months in India, if you're down in the south, in the tropical area, it's beautiful sunny days, perfect for going to the beach, perfect to be on the water and seeing India at its tropical best.
Mm.
But also that time is splendid up in Rajasthan in the desert because it's cool enough to spend all day adventuring, like you're in a t-shirt or a long shirt or something like that and, cotton pants or whatever, exploring, adventuring out and about, but quite chilly at night. And still wonderful. There are bargains to be had at other times of the year. So if you're up for a monsoon adventure, so the monsoon is eagerly awaited and comes sort of late June, roughly, if any of us can predict the weather. But that June, July, or late June, July, August, into September, the monsoon is a brilliant time to do Ayurveda. So to have Ayurvedic massages, it's perceived as the best time as from a wellness perspective to enter India. It's wonderful to be down in Goa on the beaches with that huge view to brain and great music at night and only seagulls and not see tourists. So that's a good time. And Aussies, I think, because we're used to the heat in our summer, I think we can actually cope when it gets warm in India and make the most of those beautiful swimming pools. So, I think we just put our clothes for what people are after and what they want to see and and how they like to travel. If you're an early morning person, traveling, when it's hot is absolutely fine because the morning is the best time in India. The golden light, it's when the flower market is at its most fragrant, road of the marigolds, piled at the saris. It's really magical being in India in the morning.
I was going to ask you about the time of day because you said to me that early morning and being in the flower markets is an early morning activity anyway, but it's just so fragrant and beautiful and it has that but a sense of alertness and awareness at that time.
And it's the time when people are going to worship. So it's the time when they're going to temples and they're buying flowers and fruits. And, most offices and shops don't open until about 10 a.m. in India. So actually being up and about early, you see cities waking up and you see people practicing these age-old rituals. So I really love early morning.
I'll take that on board. So it's going to lead into my final question, which is the question that we ask all our guests. And it doesn't have to be about India, but, you get extra points if it is. What is the most... I'll just throwing it in there. What is the most bizarre travel experience you've had? And I think you've had quite a few.
I certainly have had quite a few, but I've been mulling this over. I was... I've been traveling in South India with my editor. And she's a very dear friend of mine, Oriel, who'd grown up in Tamil Nadu. So she's blonde with blue eyes. Her father and mother were British, but they'd been living in South India. So she's fluent in Tamil. So Fiona and I had been traveling in South India, doing some work on a book that I still haven't written, the Love South India book. And we went to her hometown of Madurai, which is where she grew up as a child. Her father had been running a cloth mill there. And I had wanted to go to the banana market. So again, it was early in the morning. And this particular banana market in Madurai has 50 different varieties of bananas. And I was excited by it as a foodie, as a photographer, all kinds of things. So we're heading and we're fully focused on finding the banana market, which is not normal. Most people are going to this very famous temple and doing other things. So it's not a straightforward thing to find because it's a wholesale market. It's not a consumer market. Anyway, so we're driving along and Oriel, my editor, she's really alert. She looks out and gasps. And we think, oh my God, we've seen somebody hit by a car or fallen out of a rickshaw or something. And she looks over and there's a young man who's got a hole through a metal rod through his mouth, but it's the width of the road. So it's literally, this pole is 5 meters long. And we look at it and she gasps and she looks a bit pale. And of course, I look at it with this total intrigue. So we follow this procession of all of these young men with these poles. And it turns out it's this incredible festival called Taipasang. And that festival is to honor the god, Lord Murugan, who's particularly loved in South India. And it's a show of devotion. The more pain you take, the more load you bear. It's a greater show of devotion to the god, to the deity. So it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. And we went to the starting point of the procession, and we saw the poles being pierced through people's cheeks. And, there was the application of turmeric to their faces, like a turmeric paste, which is an antiseptic. And then I don't know what they were swallowing, but there was some sort of kind of trance-like state created. And there was music and sound, and people at the end of these long poles, they had kitty baskets of like flowers or candles, because the heavier it was, the stronger it was. And then they went on a very long procession. And so in a million years, I never had heard of Lord Murugan and that particular festival. Really just wouldn't have known when it was, because the Hindu year changes. It's because it's based on the sun. It's very difficult, to specify, it's not like Christmas Day is already on the 25th of the month, it's the Hindu calendar. But we never would have tracked that festival down. And I think that's maybe this shock that I talked about, which is, how do these young men, they would have been 18 to 22, that kind of age, and they would have all had iPhones and jobs in IT companies and things, but there they were all this day going through this age-old ritual. It was incredible. Just modern India, but ancient India, all at one time. I just found it amazing.
Oh, that sounds absolutely incredible, and you do get extra points for that one.
I relate, because I had an African one of ours and barbecuing rats, but anyway, I'm glad I didn't need to share that.
Oh, it's so wonderful to hear your stories. I've used your books when I've traveled in India, and I've always loved feeling your energy and your expertise in such an incredible country. Fiona, it's so wonderful to have you on the podcast, and safe travels and wonderful, joyous, colourful travels when you next return.
Thank you so much. It's great to talk with you. And let me help you plan your next trip to India. We'll get some magic thrown in there for you.
Oh, you're on. Thank you.
That was India specialist Fiona Caulfield talking to Belle about the lure of this incredibly diverse country. You can see more about her work creating bespoke journeys in India at lovetravelguides.com. Our tip this week is all about ski travel. So while the Australian or Australasian season is almost over, these tips will help you over the European and Japan ski season too, because those are obviously two of the most common places we're all headed to ski outside of our own playground. So NIB Travel says the first thing to do is to get in shape. It might sound obvious, but you really don't want to be unable to do more. The thing is, if you don't get in shape, then and you go, it's a really good point, because if you're not at least a little bit fit or ski fit, then can you imagine you go on the first day, those thighs are going to be burning. And then that second day, when you can't even sit down to go to the toilet, let alone go back on the ski wheels, it's like when you do a pump class, right? And you haven't done one for a few weeks. Oh my God. So I totally understand this one, and I think it is actually quite a valid point.
That is good advice for any active holiday, isn't it? And I think also, like the second point that they were making was ski within the limits and stay on the marked trails. This, to me, seems quite obvious. Then the point that beginners should take lessons, and those venturing off-piste should consider hiring a guide. So I had ski lessons once in Hotham, and it was by the Austrian Paralympic ski coach, and he couldn't even get me up. So I mean, I can I've snowplowed Whistler. I'm going to put it out there. I can get around, but I think that I think this kind of advice is probably tailored to people like me, saying take lessons, and if you're going off piste, hire a guide. But have you had ski lessons, Kirsty?
Oh, look, years ago, but yeah, I'm not really the audience for this one. I mean, I don't actually like cold holidays, so ski holidays. I mean, we've done obviously a fair bit of skiing in New Zealand because it's quite easy, and from Auckland where I was living to Ruapehu, it's only a few hours, and I've skied in the South Island as well. But it's just, I just don't like the cold, so yeah.
I love it, actually. No, I love it. But you know what I discovered in Finland a couple of years ago was cross-country skiing. And I just thought, to me, this makes sense. I do not have to think, am I going to leave my front teeth down the side of this mountain somewhere? It took a lot. I love the cold. Love it. I love winter snow skates, unlike you. But I just don't like hurling downhill. That's I get a bit scared.
Right, next tip is to get the right gear. So especially if, like me, you're not a skier and you don't have it stored away in a cupboard somewhere, then, you need to get gear fitted correctly. Otherwise, all of that freezing cold ice is going to get into your pants. And a properly fitted helmet is obviously a must.
Yeah, absolutely. Love a good helmet. Hey, can I tell you a fashion faux pas on skiing, Kirsty? Can I? I was going on a ski trip and quite a few years ago. So I needed to buy a ski jacket because I couldn't hire it for some reason. And I bought a really cool one, but it was white. So
we covered this off on our fashion faux pas series.
Did I mention this one?
You did, because we mentioned the red on safari and then the white.
And then I bought white. And my friend said, no one's ever going to find you in the wilderness. When you fall and fail. Oh, my goodness. So falling and failing goes with the next NIB travel thing, which says to check the weather. So monitor the conditions and be prepared for sudden changes and be sun smart. I think sudden changes, coming from Melbourne, I think we accept that there is going to be sudden change. Sun smart as well. There is nothing worse than going to après-ski and seeing all of those people with a white ski mask and the rest of their face is absolutely bright red. It's super uncool because fresh snow reflects even more UV than water. Well, it is water, right? So you need to apply sunscreen more often and don't forget your lips and ears. And stay hydrated and take regular breaks and be mindful of altitude sickness because it really is a thing.
You're good with the lips. You're always telling me when I went to Aqaba hiking, you always got about advice on lips and lip balm. I'm always forgetting to do that. Also, layer up in water repellent, slide-resistant gear. Oh, gosh, I don't know. That it might be a bit challenging to find. And bring a buddy because it's always better to ski with someone else. And obviously, it's more fun if you're into it. And lastly, of course, don't leave home without considering some insurance. Happy skiing, people. Next week, I'm talking to Nick Butner, the Vice President of the Blue Zones Project. He talks about how they discovered areas where people live the longest and healthiest lives, what you can learn from travelling to them, and importantly, how we can ensure through this research that it's translated to other parts of the world so we can all benefit from healthier lives. And if you missed it, head back and take a listen to my interview on episode 55 about Norway, where we cover what else there is to do beyond the spectacular scenery.
And we'd love it if you could give us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Click on our profile, scroll down to the bottom to ratings and reviews and hit those 5 stars if you're feeling it. And if you're on Spotify, go to our main page and click on the 3 dots under our photo. That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Wrights on Instagram. That's Kirstie Wrights, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.